Hello, my friends. Another dedicated candle review for you today. We are going to be talking about That Candle Place Pumpkin Cranberry Muffins. Now, the candle that I am reviewing for you guys is in one of her 2-wick apothecary style vessels. These are about 17 ounces of 100% soy wax. This is a brand that I have shopped from on occasion this year. It's been one of the newer brands to me. Had hits, had misses, just like every brand that I seem to buy candles from. But this is a small business based out of upstate New York. The owner's name is Shelby, and she did give me the opportunity a couple of weeks ago to pre order some candles that were going to be launched about a week and a half later. And this was one of the candles that I actually threw into that order. So, that candle place, their business model is kind they're kind of like in between, I would say. She kind of runs a little bit like Gift Gala, I would say. She's not quite as like a hard restock monthly launch as, say, Caramel Sundays, but it's also not like Kringle, where they pretty much always have a lot of stuff in stock. I find that she will do launches and then whatever kind of stays in stock on the website to be able to pour to order and ship out stays on there for a while. A lot of these companies, you guys, especially a lot of these smaller businesses, particularly as their companies grow, it'll be interesting to see, how their business models shape out. But for the time being, you guys, like I said, I think that she has a Halloween drop happening. I want to say it might be September 12th. I know that she also has like some regular, not regular, but like, what would I call it? Retiring fragrances that she will be restocking in that September 12th restock. I believe that that is when Marshmallow Fireside will be coming back. So, yeah, lots of, feel free to go ahead and check out That Candle Place, their website. I'll have it linked in the description box down below, as well as her Instagram account, so you can follow her. Like I said, I'm reviewing this 2-wick vessel, but she does have her fragrances available in larger sized formats. This one here does retail for $26, but that does not include the cost of shipping, so always keep that in mind. All right, let's go ahead and talk about this fragrance. Pumpkin Cranberry Muffins. The fragrance notes listed are zesty mandarin, cranberry, spice, sweet cream pumpkin, nutmeg, ginger, clove, cinnamon, and butter. All right, so what is my nose detecting with this fragrance? Truthfully, you guys, I feel like this is coming across to my nose really more so like I would call this like pumpkin cranberry jam. I don't really detect a muffin note in this. Um, to me, you guys, the note that I'm picking up on the most is like a very sweet cranberry. My suspicion is that it is the sweetness is definitely coming from the combination of the zesty mandarin and the cranberry. My nose doesn't necessarily pick this up distinctly as like an orange fragrance, but mandarins can be very sweet, and I think that they're kind of amping up the sweetness of whatever fragrance oil she is using for cranberry. This is not an overly spicy fragrance. And truthfully, a lot of those deeper notes that are listed there of like nutmeg, ginger, clove, cinnamon, and butter, this is not really a like dense fragrance to me. I feel like the way that this fragrance has come together upon burn is definitely more, it really is just like a very sweet cranberry. Kind of reminds me of the cranberry, it's like a candied cranberry, kind of like a cranberry note that I picked up on back in the 90s. I mentioned, I think, in the haul video when I talked about this one, that there's something kind of nostalgic about this fragrance, which is why I don't want it to come across as like a truly negative thing when I say that to my nose, you guys, this comes across a little bit as like an artificial cranberry. Um, it's definitely not like, well, I don't know, maybe it might be more like a craisin or something like that to me. It's very sweet, very sweet. There's nothing plasticky about it. In fact, I will tell you guys that this is one of those fragrances that I think I like a lot more when it is burning as opposed to on cold. I think that this one, I feel like, especially when I start talking about the performance, depending on where I burn it, I tend to appreciate it a little bit more. But again, for me, you guys, this is a very bright cranberry scent. So if you're somebody who appreciates that, maybe you don't like all of the additional spices or anything that would be like very dense, um, then maybe this might really be for you. But as for me, I feel like the cranberry and the mandarin combined have just kind of taken over the rest of the accords in this candle, and I don't really get anything that reminds me of a muffin. If you're hoping for something that's going to be like warm and gourmand, I think that you might be a bit disappointed um, in this fragrance. But I'm not mad at it. Truthfully, it's not going to be a repurchase for me. But again, I was a child in the 90s. And so there's something about this that kind of reminds me in some ways of like some of the toys that I had. Just like I have talked about this with multiple candle brands. I think there was a few years ago, like Hallmark's had like a raspberry type of candle. And I remembered saying, like, it kind of reminds me of like the strawberry shortcake candles, or not candles, toys that I would get, way back in the late 80s and the early 90s. It's not a bad thing to me. There's kind of a nostalgic memory. And that's how I feel about this cranberry. It definitely gives me like 90s fall candle vibes, but I'm not mad about it. It's not like cranberry chutney. That's not what it is. From Yankee. I know that that's a beloved classic for a lot of people. But again, very, very cranberry forward, kind of artificial, but it's very sweet. And I will tell you guys that as I've been burning this candle in my home, I've really liked pairing this. If any of you guys happen to have harvest leaves from Homeworks in your collection and you are somebody who likes to burn more than one fragrance, that complement each other as you move from room to room, get that one out. And, if you already have this one, burn them together. Because I found that to be a really, really nice combination. Harvest Leaves has a little bit more of like a pumpkin note balanced with like a slightly softer cranberry type of profile, and all of it just seems to work. Now let's go ahead and talk about the performance of this candle. One of the things that I failed to mention the other day when I did my vanilla cupcake review is that something that you guys should know on these 2 wicks that I have had happen in the past, because I do burn my candles in hurricanes. It's not happening yet, you guys, but I have found that when these candles, when the wax gets below the label line, I do notice that this label does turn blue. I don't know if that has been rectified, but that has happened to me in the past. So I did want to let you guys know about that. I forgot to mention that in my vanilla cupcake review. So if that's something that would bother you or whatnot, you might want to know about that. Other thing you can see, I have nice healthy wicks here. You will see if I get a little bit closer that the wicks do have a tendency to want to curl down a little bit. So you are going to want to keep an eye on that. I did have the other day, I lit this candle in my daughter's bedroom and kind of walked away. And I had walked away for like a couple of hours, like maybe like 2 hours. And I walked back in the room and I was like, I know this candle is stronger than what I'm smelling. And sure enough, when I looked over, one of the wicks had kind of fallen over, not fallen over, but it had curled into the wax. And so it never got going. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that would explain why I'm not smelling this as strong as I normally have in the past. All right, you guys, so here's what I'm going to say about this candle. Much like I have mentioned before with some of my That Candle Place reviews, one of the things that I have noticed about these candles in particular is that I always throw out the assessment of the first burn. First burn with these candles, you guys, they do tend to take a little while to get going. I don't know if it is just, the particular fragrance oils that she uses, but they do kind of need a little while to start throwing on the first burn. After that, I will tell you guys that if you let these go for a couple of hours, they do start to develop nicely. And then I will say after like your third burn, you're usually good to go, starting with, within, I would say, like 20 minutes of lighting the candle. Because this one has started to throw for me pretty much after that. After the second burn, this one has done quite well for me in terms of strength and throw. I would give this about a 7. I will tell you guys, I actually kind of like it more out in my open concept than I do in the closed concept bedrooms. And this is why. In the closed concept bedrooms, to me, it comes across a little bit too sweet. But when I move this out into my open concept, it's still throwing the same way, but it just doesn't seem to be as sweet and as strong to my nose. And I actually find that I appreciate it a little bit more. I still detect it out in the open concept, but it's not as intense, I would say, as when I burn this in, say, my daughter's bedroom or in my bedroom, which are obviously smaller rooms with lower ceilings. So I will continue to burn this one out in my open concept. I think that that's probably the best place for it because I do appreciate it out here. Like I said, you guys, it's not going to be a repurchase for me, but it's also not one that I feel like I need to declutter. It is definitely giving me 90s fall vibes. So if you're somebody who really like has a nostalgia for the way that cranberry fragrances smelled in the 90s, I think that you will really appreciate this fragrance. And like I said, if you happen to have Hallmark's Harvest Leaves in your collection, I feel like that's a great pairing. This also pairs really nicely, by the way, with Vanilla Cupcake, which if you caught that review the other day, you guys know that I gave that one 2 thumbs up. It's just a really nice, good vanilla gourmand, and I feel like this one, vanilla can pair pretty nicely with everything, and I feel like that goes nicely. But caution again, if you have like a smaller space that you plan to burn this in and you don't like overly sweet fragrances, not like gourmand sweet, but it's just more like fruity sweet. If you don't like really fruity sweet fragrances and you have a smaller space, this one might be a little bit too much for you. You might find it slightly cloying. But otherwise, it's a good one. But also caution that I'm not picking up a lot of muffin in here. I'm not really getting a baked good accord in here. So you also might want to be aware of that. So anyways, you guys, let me know in the comment section down below if you have purchased this candle from that candle place. Let me know what your experience has been. Would you agree with my assessment, or are you getting more of a muffin note or more pumpkin? Really would be curious to hear your thoughts. So if you like this video, please make sure you hit the thumbs up button. Consider subscribing to my channel if you are new. I do want to say thank you so very, very much for spending your time here with me today. And until my next one, I hope you all go out and have a very blessed day. Bye.